Every March, my phone rings off the hook. Panicked parents whose kids just found out that second-year residence at UBCO is basically impossible to get. If your child is heading into their second year and it's already March, you have no time to waste. I'm Mark with KelownaCondos.ca, and I've helped hundreds of families navigate this exact situation. Today, I'm answering the question every UBCO parent asks. Should I buy or should I rent? We'll look at the costs, the lifestyles, and the financial outcomes so you can make the right decision before the housing scramble begins. Here's what catches families off guard. First year, your child will likely get residence. UBCO has 2,100 dorms, and they prioritize first-year students. I say likely because every September, UBCO welcomes 2,500 first-year students. Yes, there are only 2,100 rooms. But here's the real problem. Second-year students don't keep their room. They have to reapply before February, and they won't hear back for a month or more. Year after year, most students don't get in. This is where the panic sets in. You go from, we hope we get a room, to suddenly we have 6 months to find housing. And now you're competing with the other 2,500 first-year students and their parents who just found out the same news. The market around UBCO goes from sleepy to crazy. With current vacancy rates in the 2 to 3% range, finding a place to live has become one of the most stressful parts of the UBCO experience. Here's an example. In January 2023, a mom called me in tears. Her daughter was living in a basement suite 20 minutes from campus, but she was spending 2 hours a day on the bus. She was miserable. Instead of studying with her friends and hanging out on campus, she was worried about getting home. Being a parent myself, I know how much stress this caused her mom. University is supposed to be a great experience and a time when you make lifelong friends. The smaller school size and the laid-back vibe is what a lot of parents tell me drew them to UBCO. It definitely wasn't miserable kids and our bus system. So let's talk about rental options. If you rent a studio apartment in VEDA, for example, you're looking at about $20,000 a year or $80,000 over 4 years. This is probably the easiest option. At the end of those 4 years, you just walk away, but you have to add $80,000 to your education tab. You can also look for a bedroom to rent in a condo up there. Most bedrooms rent around $1,200 a month or just over $14,000 a year. Over 4 years, that's close to $58,000, which is going to be a lot cheaper than the studio in VEDA, but the challenge with this is finding one. You're usually relying on friends or word of mouth around campus. Here's another problem. Because you're not signing a long-term lease, if your landlord sells, you're going to be back to the same spot, scrambling for housing again. Students often end up settling for what's available, not what's best. And if they can't find anything, now they face longer commutes or unfurnished units that require time and money to set up. So what does buying look like? Well, buying gives your child one home, one routine for their entire degree. There's no scrambling every summer, no surprise rent increases, and no wondering if the landlord's going to sell. You choose the building, you choose the location, and you choose the quality. Numerous studies have shown that when young adults feel settled and have a good routine, they perform better academically. For most families I talk to, this is a lifestyle decision first. The financial benefit is just a bonus. Parents that I speak with are often surprised that buying a condo near campus can actually cost less than renting when you factor in the equity build and the rental income. Here's what condos on Academy Way have been selling for. There aren't a lot of one-bedroom condos, but the few up there sell around $350,000. Two-bedroom condos have been selling around $425,000. Three-bedroom condos, they've been popular in the last year. They sell around $550,000. Prior to the foreign student changes, the vacancy rate was 0, and the market was insane. But since the changes, property values have dropped, and the vacancy rate has gone up a bit. I feel that once the government relaxes the restrictions, this will be a growth market. And given how hard the major Canadian universities have been hit, I think changes are bound to happen. Looking at the numbers. Let's say you buy a two-bedroom condo for $425,000. You put 20% down, your down payment is going to be $85,000 Plus, there's a $6,500 property transfer tax. If you've never heard about the property transfer tax, stay tuned. I'm going to be dropping a video shortly all about it. Using a 4% interest rate, your payment will be just under $1,800 a month. Monthly expenses for your strata fees, your insurance, your utilities, and property tax will be around $640 a month. So your total cost is going to be around $2,500 a month. Now here's where it gets interesting. If you rent out the second bedroom to a friend or another student from campus for $1,200 a month, your housing cost drops to $1,300 a month. So let's look at these numbers over 4 years. Your total costs, just under $60,000. Your mortgage paydown, $36,000. Your actual out-of-pocket cost is $23,000. Compare that to renting a bedroom for 4 years and you've spent less than half and you are in complete control of your housing. So what about a 3-bedroom? Well, the numbers are better, but having to get a second roommate is a little more work. If you spend $550,000 on a condo, your down payment's going to be $110,000, plus there's $9,000 for property transfer tax. Using the same interest rate, your payment will be just over $2,300. Monthly expenses will be $790, which are a little higher because it's a 3-bedroom. Your total cost is going to be around $3,100 a month. But if you rent both extra bedrooms for $1,200 each, now your out-of-pocket cost is only $700 a month. Over 4 years, your total cost is $34,000, your mortgage paydown, $47,000. This leaves you with $13,000 in income. Having the second roommate means more work, but it pays for your housing costs. What about market appreciation? Well, if we take a conservative 0.5% annual growth, which comes to $12,500, and we factor in the $47,000 mortgage paydown, your potential return is around $59,000. If you buy with cash, you'll eliminate the mortgage payments, so your potential return will be close to $90,000. But of course, you should 100% talk to your accountant about what's best for you in your situation. This isn't just peace of mind. This can be a smart financial decision while your child attends university. Okay, so where would I buy? Well, Academy Way is my top recommendation. The buildings are newer and they're walkable to campus, they have a high demand, and they were built for students, so there's not a lot of amenities. The numbers that I just showed you, they reference the U buildings on Academy Way. Here are the sales by bedrooms over the last 3 years. There were only 6 one-bedrooms sold because the demand is low. There were 52 two-bedrooms sold, and there were 44 three-bedrooms sold. There are a few options on Country Club Drive, which is just north of the campus. These buildings have amenities, though, like a pool, so the strata fees are double. But they can be a good option if you want a vacation home that you can use in the summer. A lot of them are furnished, and they're still pretty close to campus. You can find lower-priced properties in North Glenmore and Rutland, but there's a longer commute, and there's not many students around. You'll also have to furnish these units because they're just regular rentals. And watch out for older buildings that look like really good deals, because they might cost you more in the long run. This is where experience matters, knowing which buildings are worth buying and which buildings you should avoid. So what happens when your child graduates? Well, here are a few options I see. You can sell it. Any appreciation you see will likely cover your selling costs. You can keep it as a rental because demand near UBCO is only going to increase and well-maintained units rent easy. I can recommend a few good property managers that you can chat with if you want to keep the condo as an investment property. Sometimes you can also use it for younger siblings. I see a lot of families do this. One kid goes to UBCO and then the others follow. But of course, these scenarios will depend on your situation at the time of graduation. Buying might be a good choice if you value stability and you don't want to think about housing, or if you like the idea of your child having a roommate or two. Maybe you want to reduce your housing costs. On the flip side, renting makes more sense if your child might transfer schools, you don't want the financial commitment, or maybe you're not comfortable managing a property from a distance. So here's what buying a condo gives you. Stability, your child has guaranteed housing for their entire degree. Lower costs, because of the rental income, your out-of-pocket expenses are often going to be less than renting. And equity, every payment builds wealth instead of going to the landlord. In a market where demand is high and supply is low, buying might turn a crisis into an opportunity. Instead of spending money on rent with nothing to show for it, you're investing in an asset that works for you. Parents who call me aren't always looking for a yes or no answer. They just want to explore their options. Once we compare the monthly costs, the down payment, and the potential issues, then they can sit down and they can make an informed decision. There's no right or wrong answer. Every family situation is different. But the biggest mistake I see is waiting too long. If you wait till March and you find out you're not getting housing, now you're competing with thousands of other students. The inventory is going to drop, the prices are going to go up, and your options are going to vanish. The best time is late winter. The second best time is early summer, when the people who bought condos are looking for a roommate. But considering we're almost at the end of this video, something tells me that you don't want to risk waiting until the last minute to find a place to live. Whether your child is going into second year or just starting their first year, the earlier you start researching, the better. Renting can work and buying can work, but either way, starting early means less stress and way more options. If your child is going to UBCO and you want to talk about the Okanagan housing market, just book a time to chat. You can find the calendar link in the description below. We can look at what makes sense for you and your family before the housing scramble begins. Want to know more about the property transfer tax? I'll leave a link to the video in the comments once it's done. I'm Mark with Kelowna Condos and RE/MAX, and I stay on top of the condo market so you don't have to. Thanks for watching.